I had reached Badrinath after a great deal of travel. Took me about 3 months roughly to reach Badrinarayan. And as I said, the priests of Badrinarayan are Nambudris from Kerala. So I went to see the priest, to see the Ravalji, they are called Ravaljis, and I had a meeting with him. Interesting. I was given the name of Shiva Prasad at Haridwar by the Mahamandaleshwar, whom I had met first. So I maintained that name. So when Ravalji asked me, what is your name? I said, Shiva Prasad. Because I thought these Nambudris are such orthodox people from Kerala, Brahmins. So I thought better to stick to Shiva Prasad. So I said, Shiva Prasad. Ah, very good, he said. So you finished your college? I said, almost. So why are you here? I said, I came looking for gurus because I have heard in the Himalayas there are great yogis still living who might be able to guide me because I'm looking for a true and original guru. He started laughing. Then he said, I have not met a single genuine soul here. I was shocked. I said, how is this possible? He said, maybe I have, I am not sure, but most of these pseudo sadhus all around here, some of them are very rich, and he gave me such a critical view of this whole thing that I began to wonder, is it right to ask? It was wrong to ask this man. Anyway, I said, all right, but can you find me a place to stay? He said, yeah, that I can find you. I'll find a kutir for you across the river, across the Alkananda. Stay for some time. You can get all your food from here because the priests of Badrinath are from Kerala. Badrinarayan regularly gets Kerala food to eat. So I decided I will also get good food, and I stayed on. I was missing the food for quite some time. So I stayed on. But every time I met Ravalji, he used to discourage me. He said, I appreciate your search, but you can find it at home also. You are an educated man, you should go back, work for a living. See these buggers, they are all sadhus. Okay. I kind of closed my ears and listened and heard everything that he said, but it didn't register. I was very upset. One day I was so upset, I was so depressed that I decided that I will walk up to Mana, the last village on the border, full of Tibetan weavers, and then go to Vashishta Gufa, which somebody said is beyond, and see if there is anyone there. If I don't find a proper guru or a teacher, then it is better that I commit suicide, because maybe this body is not ready for spiritual instruction, maybe I am not fit for it. Maybe next time I will come back in a better body, in better circumstances, and find a guru and find spiritual fulfillment. So I said to myself, I will go and see. If I don't find anybody, I stood on the banks of the Alkananda and looked down, and in my mind I was calculating how many minutes it will take to die, because the water flows very strongly with a roaring noise from the top. I said to myself, maybe 2 minutes I will be dead, finished. I will close my eyes, meditate and go. So when you discard the body, you get a better body and come back again for spiritual. With this in mind, do or die, I walked up. So I went up to Vyasa Gufa. There was nothing there. Vyasa Gufa now has become so busy, it's not worth going there. That time there was just a small cave. Then I further went up, almost up to Swarga Arohini, near the rocks where the Saraswati river flows. There is a beam pool there. I went to beam pool, then I was quite depressed and I started walking down. On the way I had to pass the Vyas Gufa again. So when I reached Vyas Gufa, I found that there was some fire inside. Somebody must be there. There was a dhuni in the mouth of the Vyas Gufa. If there is a dhuni is the big fire which is lit by yogis who live in these areas, like a campfire. So I said, if there is there must be somebody inside. So I slowly went into the Vyasa Gufa, not expecting anybody, hoping to see some sadhu. I thought maybe I'll spend the night here and meditate. The moment I entered, this person came out of the cave. And I looked at him, and it was the same. It clicked immediately in my mind that this is the same person whom I have seen many years ago when I was a 9-year-old boy playing in the backyard of my house. The man who stood under the jackfruit tree and touched my head. This whole thing flashed into my mind, and I said, I think this is the same person. And unconsciously I exclaimed, Babaji, like that. So, and his first statement was very interesting. He said to me, Acha ghum phir ke aa gaye yahan. You've gone round and come back to me. So I prostrated before him and I said, now all my life till I die I am not going to leave you. And he said, Dekha jayega, we'll think about it. But then from that time, for 3.5 years, I spent with him, following him wherever he went, learning what he taught, eating what he provided, and living as he wanted me to live. 3.5 years as he travelled, I also travelled. And that night we spent at Vyas Gufa. The next day morning, he took me away from there. We crossed the river, went to a place called Charanapaduka, which is behind the Badrinath temple, which has many caves. As you proceed further up, you see caves on the right side from Charanapaduka. If you go further, it used to be the old route to Kedar, but nobody goes on that way now because it's all broken and ice filled. So, in one of those caves in Charanapaduka is the place where Babaji used to live. Now, when I say Babaji, many people would immediately think that I am talking about Mahavatar Babaji, about whom Yogananda Paramahamsa has written in the Autobiography of a Yogi. I think in recent times, Rajnikant also made a movie on Babaji. No, I am not talking about that Babaji. I am talking about someone whose name was Maheshwarnath Babaji. We used to call him Babaji. In Hindi, Babaji means Appa, father. It means father, mother, everything. So great saints are addressed as Babaji. Maheshwarnath Babaji belonged to the Nath Sampradaya, which is a very old tradition in India. It starts with Adinath, who is considered to be none other than Shiva himself. And from there, Machendranath, and from Machendranath to Gorakhnath, from Gorakhnath to the other Naths. Gorakhnath is the most famous of the Nath Sampradaya saints, and his headquarters is in Gorakhpur, which is on the border of Nepal almost. Now, Maheshwarnath Babaji belonged to the Nath Sampradaya on one side, and on the other side, he was a direct disciple of Sri Guru Babaji, who is referred to in the autobiography as Mahavatar Babaji. In our tradition, in our parampara, we don't call him Mahavatar, we call him Sri Guru Babaji. Because Mahavatar was a word coined by Paramahamsa Yogananda, because this particular being is supposed to have lived for so many years. Many other avatars have come and gone, but he continues to live, so he gave the title of Mahavatar. And the picture of Babaji, Sri Guru, we called him Sri Guru Babaji, he was my Guru's Guru. So, normally when I say Babaji, I refer to Maheshwarnath Babaji, who was his disciple, direct disciple. Now, there is a picture of Mahavatar Babaji or Sri Guru Babaji in the Autobiography of a Yogi. Now, that picture is a painting done by the brother of Yogananda Paramahamsa, based on a description given by Yogananda Paramahamsa, who said that he had seen Sri Guru Babaji in a vision. Not actually, but in a vision. This is the picture. Now, why I am mentioning this is because one day when I was walking with Maheshwarnath Babaji, whom I shall continue to refer as Babaji, in Badrinath, I told him that this beautiful picture of our Paramaguru, Sri Guru Babaji, is there in the Autobiography of Yogi. It's beautiful, which I had read. He said, it is beautiful, it's an artist's rendering, but there is another picture which is even more identical to as Babaji looks. So I asked him, where is it? So he said, it is hanging in the bedroom of the Ravalji at Badrinath. So I said, shall we go and see it? He said, Abhi nahi, not now. So I kept quiet. I was like that. He always, when he blew the whistle, I shook my tail and went, and when he blew the whistle, I went away. So when he said, don't want, I said, don't want, fine. Once I even told Babaji, he said, what do you think about yourself? You and me. I said, I think of myself as a dog sitting in front of you, looking at you, listening to you, his master's voice, HMV. And he said, but don't shake your tail too much. Zyada dum nahi hilana, he said. Anyway, so that was our, so I said, okay, fine. Many years later, and then he gave me the history of how that picture of Sri Guru Babaji came to be in the Ravalji's room in Badrinath. Ravalji is the chief priest of the temple. He said there was one priest, one of the Ravaljis, who was a great bhakta of Badrinarayan. So he used to go off when he was not doing puja, free hours, to the back of the temple and meditate in Charana Paduka. So one day when he was meditating in Charana Paduka, he saw a vision. He saw somebody, not vision, he actually saw somebody. Now, according to Babaji, it was Sri Guru. But the Ravalji thought that it was a vision of Badrinarayan, sitting in Padmasana. In Badrinarayan is the only form of Narayana who sits in Padmasana in meditative pose. So when he came back home to his room, he was an amateur artist. So using vegetable colors, he painted a picture of whom he saw, who he thought was Badrinarayan, but it is Sri Guru or Mahavatar or whatever you want to call him. That picture was lying in the room of the bedroom of the Ravaljis for many years. This was the picture, and that is the picture which I have used in my autobiography. You will find a picture of Sri Guru Babaji, which is a copy of the picture that hangs even today in the bedroom of the Ravaljis. Now the Ravaljis have come to know that it is Sri Guru, so they have taken prints and kept it in front. When they sit, there is also a picture of Babaji there. Now, this picture came to me because once we went to Badri Kedar in Rishikesh, Nanu came with us, and he is an amateur photographer, but he is almost a professional. So he had a beautiful camera which looked somewhat like here, and with that we went to then Ravalji and asked his permission, can we take a picture? They didn't know at that time what it was. They said it has been lying here for years. It is a painting of Badrinarayan. I said, can we take a picture of that? He said, no problem. Vishnu Nambudripad was the Ravalji at that time. So then Nanu, with his camera and lights and all that, he took a close-up of that, and then he printed it and distributed it to us. And that is the picture that you will find in my autobiography. It is very similar to the one in Autobiography Yogi, but it is a little more, according to Babaji, more resemblance to Sri Guru Babaji, and it is a little roughly done. It's not very finely done. Anyway, so I stayed with Babaji, with Maheshwarnath Babaji, in the cave at Charana Paduka behind the Badrinath temple, and I spent many days with him off and on. We used to travel and come back again, stay there. Many of the lessons which I learnt, much of the knowledge that I had gained, which is with me today, and because of which I am able to teach people, those who want to learn, came from those days of instruction in Charana Paduka. I learnt not only how to study Vedanta, how to practice meditation, or how to practice Kriya Yoga, which is our parampara. I also learnt how to cut vegetables, how to cook food, how to go for bhiksha, how to keep the kutir clean. Babaji told me once, if you cannot cut vegetables properly, you cannot understand Vedanta. He was a real taskmaster and a real teacher who taught me every little thing, how to live, what to do. Of course, I may not have been such a perfect disciple, so I might commit mistakes, but this was the teaching, the instruction. And he was more than a father and mother. I think he was father, mother, friend, all guru, all rolled into one. I never kept anything in my mind. I exposed my mind to him, and he worked on it in his own way. Sometimes actual work, sometimes invisible work, which you cannot make out until the results come forth. So this was my life with Maheshwarnath Babaji. Now, before I end my story about Sri Maheshwarnath Babaji, I must mention one more thing, which is that he was one of the oldest and the earliest direct disciples of Sri Guru Babaji. And in the Autobiography of a Yogi, there is a mention of Lahiri Mahashai, who was Shyamacharan Lahiri was a very advanced yogi and a disciple of Mahavatar Babaji. So, in that story, in the autobiography, there is a mention of Lahiri Mahashai going to the Himalayas and meeting Sri Guru Babaji in the cave. That cave is still there. It's in UP near Dwarahat. Now, in that, Babaji sent somebody to him, to Shyamacharan Lahiri, saying, go and bring him inside and show him something. Now, this person who was sent by him to fetch Shyamacharan Lahiri inside was Maheshwarnath Babaji. It's not, his name is not mentioned in the autobiography because the author of the autobiography did not know who he was. He has only mentioned that he sent one of his advanced disciples to bring him inside. This is Maheshwarnath Babaji. Now, how did he look? His picture is there in my autobiography. It is not a photograph. It's also a painting, because Sri Guru Babaji was dead against being photographed. He always resisted being photographed. And knowing that I was myself an amateur artist, he prohibited me from painting or drawing any likeliness of himself, because he was he was against any form of people worshipping him in any way. He was a man who walked barefoot all along the Himalayas, or even when he came back down the Himalayas, barefoot, no ashram, no organization, no banner. The only thing he possessed was a white cloth which reached from the waist to the knees, and a kamandalu and a rudraksha mala on his neck. There was nothing else that he possessed, not even a pair of Hawaii chappals. And he never got into any vehicle. He always walked, no bus, no car, always walking. And therefore I was also forced to walk with him wherever he went, whenever I was with him. He was a thin, tall man, well built, very fair, with a sparse beard and moustache, and with his hair, matted hair, jata, tied up like a big cord on the top of the head. His eyes were the most extraordinary, because very often questions which were difficult to be understood through discussion and argument could be understood by his mere look into your eyes. That was the most special quality of Babaji that I know of, that I have heard of. Anyway, so I lived with this great being for some years. Now I must tell you the story of Babaji's picture, which is now in the autobiography, how it came about. Even though Babaji had told me not to take a picture of him, not to photograph him, not to paint any picture of him, one day in my innocence and ignorance, I decided that I would somehow get a photograph of his. Now that's an interesting story by itself. We used to live in Rishikesh for some time in a place called the Gufa of Mauni Baba, Mauni Baba's cave, which is on the other side of the Ganga. In the evening we used to cross over onto this side, sit on the banks of the Ganga in a quiet spot and have a lot of discussions for 1 or 2 teaching sessions. Upanishads, I have studied many things sitting there. So, now this story which I am going to relate about Babaji's photograph is not in this autobiography. It will probably come in the sequel which I am working on now. So, every evening we used to come across, sit on the steps and talk. One day in Lakshman Jhula, if you go, you will find lot of photographers there for tourists. They will say 5 minutes photograph and they will give it to you the next day, a print. So in that way I became very friendly with a young photographer, Gadwali boy, who used to be hanging around Lakshman Jhula. So one day I told him, why don't you do me a favor? In the evening I sit in such and such a spot and I have discussions with Babaji. You come there, you don't even show that you know me, you come from the ghat side, keep photographing everything, in between take a quick shot of Babaji also, and then walk up, and then don't see me, tomorrow I will see you and take the photograph. He agreed. So that evening around 5 I was becoming more and more nervous. I thought, suppose Babaji comes to know somehow and he says, today we won't cross to that side, what will happen? But promptly at 5 o'clock he said, chalte hain us taraf. So I said, okay, fine. As of now everything is working according to my plan. So we came on to this side. We sat down on the steps of the ghat, the upper steps, and we started discussing something. I waited, I couldn't find this photographer anywhere. So many people were coming and going, but there is no photographer. So we waited till around dusk when the sun is about to set. At about 6:30, Babaji suddenly said to me, "Oh, तुम्हारा photographer अभी नहीं आएगा." He said that your photographer is not going to turn up now. I had not mentioned to him about the photographer at all in the first place. So I was shocked, so I fell at his feet and sought forgiveness. I said, Babaji, I am very sorry. I so value your photograph that I somehow wanted to do it. I won't repeat this ever. I am very, very sorry about this. So Babaji said, doesn't matter, it is all right. And we went back to the cave, to Mauni Baba's cave, and that day, that evening in Mauni Baba's cave, I got a beautiful discussion. I got a beautiful lesson on photography. It was very beautiful. He said, suppose your photographer had come, suppose, and he had clicked. What if my picture wouldn't have come? How would you stop it? I said, how can you stop it, Babaji? Because if a photographer clicks, it will certainly come in the film. He said, how does an image come in the camera? I said, how? He said, if there is an image and if light falls on it, that light reflects back from the object and goes to the lens and you get the picture. Suppose I know some way by which I can prevent the light that falls on me from reflecting back. Is it possible to take a photograph? I said no. He said that is what would have happened. If the photographer had come, he would not have got a picture. He would probably have got a black outline. That's all he could have got. Because all the light, when it is absorbed, it is black. If all the light is reflected together, it is white. So I got a nice discussion on what light is and how it is affecting and how photography takes place. This whole thing. So this is the story of how I tried to photograph Babaji. Then how did I get the picture in the autobiography? Many years later, while in Madanapalli, one summer morning, I decided that I would make a picture of Babaji, because I thought that stricture was laid many years ago. Now it would have gone. So at least for my own satisfaction. So nobody was at home. I took a drawing board, fixed a white drawing paper onto it with pins, took Indian ink and a brush, black brush, and from my memory I made a beautiful outline of Sri Guru Babaji. Now it was a May day, mid-May, and there were no clouds anywhere there, no sign of rain, absolutely clear sky. I left it outside on the veranda to get some air. I had my lunch and went up to sleep. I woke up from the sleep when I heard rain, heavy rain. There was thunder. So it suddenly occurred to me that I had kept a picture outside to dry. So I came running down, and what do I see? There water and wind have completely wiped the thing out, and there was only the soaked drawing paper sitting there. This was my second attempt at capturing Babaji. Then, when the autobiography was going to come out, I said it is unfair to the readers that we don't have Babaji's picture when I keep saying Babaji, Babaji, Babaji. Sri Guru Babaji's is there. What about Maheshwarnath Babaji? So I decided once more let me try an outline. So I sat down and made an outline. There is an art teacher in our school, boarding school, in the People Grow school called Sharat. I took this drawing to him and I said to him, can you make some alterations to this and show me the result? Make a few frames. He is a graphic designer also. So he made a few frames. I approved of one of them, and that picture is the one that you find in the autobiography. It was done for the purpose of the readers. Even after it was done, I was wondering when it would disappear, but it didn't disappear till it was printed.